Alright guys, we are live. I am new at this. Was going to do this on my laptop. My laptop's not even wanting to go live. So I had to do my phone. So I'm just going to change some things here on the channel. Alright, I'll have to do it later. But we're live after all that hassle. Live to the first podcast. Not exactly how I wanted it all set up. Background, kind of busy today. Had a whole bunch of crap going on. Heat wasn't working in our apartment. So, had to get that taken care of. That took up most of my day. Don't know how good this is going to look. I'm not even hooked up to Wi-Fi on my phone. We got one person in. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm supposed to go about seeing the chat on here. No, that's not it. Oh, there we go. Callie, hi. Gabriel, hi. Two sweet. So this is the first podcast. I want to do something different for the channel. We've gotten a crap ton of snow here in Chicago and the surrounding areas, so we can't get out metal detecting and probably won't be out for a while. Kind of crappy, but that's what they expect during the wintertime. It is Chicago. You live in the north. Sucks. That's when I still wish I lived in Tennessee. Ah, look, I had a third viewer and they left. Why? Why did you leave? I'm just kidding. So I've been metal detecting for about 8 years. Yeah, everybody's getting hit with snow. I'm gonna kind of interact with the chat as I see it, as long as it doesn't kind of interrupt things. Once we get started, if y'all have any questions, we're going over something, just put it on the chat and I'll see it on the screen and I'll try to get to it. I've been metal detecting for 8 years, got into the hobby a while ago, have used tons of different machines, done all different kinds of metal detecting, and kind of made my channel to mostly keep a record of places I had gone. I didn't create my YouTube channel like some channels to become YouTube famous and all that kind of stuff. That'd be nice, but when I first started it was pretty much just, for me, document all my digs and stuff like that. It's what a lot of people at the time were using it for. When I came around, stealth diggers were just getting big, Hoover boys were just getting big, so a lot of channels that were around back then aren't even around anymore. I kind of fell off the last year or so just because it became more of a hassle. Definitely if you've watched our videos before, we're normally out in a group of anywhere from 2 to 3 guys to we've had groups of 10, 15, 20 guys. And I'm the only one doing all the videoing, all the editing once I get home, uploading it, editing it, posting it. So it got kind of tedious. So kind of fell off a little bit. But we will be doing some more metal detecting this year and putting some stuff up on the channel. I changed the name of the channel from Detecting Chicago, if you've noticed, to 708 Adventures, just because I want to add other stuff to the channel. So we want to do some gold painting. Al, who you've seen in the videos if you watched them, has been doing gold painting lately. We know a place in Wisconsin where you can go, that they have a club up there for gold painting, and they have different sites that you can go to once you're a member of their club. We think we know another place that's in either Ohio or Indiana or something like that too. So, can't wait to see more carping. There will be more fishing. I have gotten hook, line, and sinker, all pun intended, into carp fishing. I do plan on adding more fishing, different kinds of fish. I do go for other stuff. I'd like to get more into catfishing. I'd like to get more into live bait fishing for bass and pike and muskie, and caught a few bowfin before. Never really caught a big bass, maybe 2 or 3 pounder. That's about it. But there will be more fishing. Don't know if I'll do something like this for the fishing stuff. Literally, I hadn't fished since I was a kid. Just got back into it and got back into it carp fishing. So I'm learning every time I go out something new. But on the metal detecting front, I decided I would do some of these live streams. I had some content on the channel for you guys since there hasn't been many videos. Just going over certain things I see in the hobby, certain stuff that interests me, stuff that may be going around the community on Facebook and Facebook groups and people talking about and stuff like that that may get under my skin or bother me or irritate me. There's been stuff over the years that I would have loved to have done something like this to be able to discuss it. I have been on other podcasts, been on Josh Kimball's podcast. I've been on, uh, let's see, been on some of the podcasts that ain't around anymore. There's a few podcasts that used to be out back in the day that when I started metal detecting that aren't around anymore, but they're all great and I listen to them and keep up to them. I just binge listened to all yesterday and today of the American Digger and caught up to them. So, uh, new Nocta coils or Equinox, not Nocta. Sorry, I was talking to somebody else about it. Nocta macro. Harold, you are not finding nothing. Harold don't get no more silver. That's it. I'm going to learn that Equinox with that 15-inch coil. I'm going to stop Harold from finding all the silver. So in this podcast, I wanted to go off me. Well, let's see. In the first 2 or 3 years of me metal detecting, I probably went through. Oh, I think at one point I tried to count. I think I've gone through using maybe anywhere between 12 to 14 different machines. Anywhere from having some for a year, maybe more, some for maybe a couple of weeks, some for a couple of months. It's pretty much a reoccurring theme of people that know me on Facebook that every once in a while you're going to see that, oh, hey, Tom's got a new machine, or hey, you know that new machine's coming out, Tom's going to have one, and I will. I will find a way to either buy it or trade whatever I have to get a new machine, just to try it. Truthfully, in my opinion, there's no, unless you're like specifically doing stuff that you need something like a pulse machine or you need something like a fully waterproof diving machine for like water hunting or something like that, and you don't want a machine that can also go in the water and go on land, then all the machines are kind of good. Definitely the newer machines, maybe in the last 2, 3, 4 years, they're all pretty good. They're pretty much just down to the little ins and outs of what you want and what you don't want in a machine. You know, do you want to have to pay the extra money to have a waterproof machine? Do you want to take the kind of gamble of having a fully wireless machine like a Deus? Do you want to swing the weight of a machine like a CTX 3030? Which I had a CTX 3030 with the huge giant Minelab coil that I used all the time. And it literally would tear me up. I'm not old, and it would make I never really got elbow soreness. Mine was more in my shoulders. I've dislocated my shoulder twice, so it wasn't that pleasant of an experience when you're out using and swinging a metal detector for, sometimes we would get out 7 o'clock, we would be hitting the field, and we would maybe stop for lunch, and then we would go until sunset. So pretty much all day. And swinging that heavy CTX 3030, it would tear you up. Let's see. Gabriel's in his 5th year detecting since he was 8. Nice. Ace 400. Now, we'll get into that. Some of the machines I have used and what I would recommend to somebody getting into the hobby. So I guess we'll start off with beginning machines. Somebody new getting into the hobby, I always have people come and ask me, because a lot of people know, hey, Tom's used a bunch of machines. Go ask him what he would tell you to get. You know, you're brand new in the hobby, you want to get a machine. Oh, what should I get? There's a few factors that go into that. I'm not really a guy that says, oh, hey, Garrett is the best. It'll do everything. You don't need anything else but a Garrett. Oh, hey, Minelab's the best. Just get a Minelab and it'll kill. Simplex. Good machine. I only got to use one for a couple of weeks. And, I liked it. Pretty good. For the amount of money and all the features it has, if I had the extra money laying around, I would have one. But, sadly I don't. Okay. When I got into the hobby, you had beginning machines such as the Garrett Ace 150, 250, 350. Minelab had like the Go Finds that just come out. You had the Xterra series if you wanted a base Minelab, not expensive machine as an E-Track or a CTX. I'm not sure if even the CTX may have just come out when I got into the hobby. A lot of guys I knew had E-Tracks. You had some people that would swing Technetics and Fisher. Pretty much when I come down to and somebody asks me, hey, what I'm a beginner, I'm new in the hobby, what should I get as a machine? I pretty much tell them, what do you want to do? What's your budget? What kind of hunting are you going to do? You know, are you just going to go to your local little park, you know, where you're going to mostly dig, probably clad and stuff, unless it's an old place, something like that. You know, are you trying to get deep in older spots? Are you going in the woods? Do you need something to deal good in iron? How technical do you want to get? You know, do you want something you can just turn on, put in some basic settings, or just run how the machine is? Or do you want something that you're really technical and you're going to learn it, and you're going to get into it, and you're going to start to figure out the different settings and tweak and change stuff? Comes down to a lot of different things. Pretty much figure out where you're going to detect. Are you going to detect parks? Are you going to do beach hunting? Are you going to need it to be waterproof? Do you not want to spend for waterproof? But nowadays, you can kind of get away with that with a simplex. You know, for under 300 bucks, most places, you can get a simplex, and it's waterproof, fully rechargeable, pretty good, gives pretty good depth. Don't lose money on cheap. Yes. So I spend a lot of time, because I'm always wanting to get something new, going on a lot of sell your metal detector forums and eBay and Facebook Marketplace and looking around. I've known one guy, so I can't really say don't buy a bounty hunter. I know one guy that used a bounty hunter forever and found a lot of good stuff, but he was digging in old places where not a lot of people metal detected at, so he did pretty well. He didn't really find really crazy old stuff, but he found decent amount of stuff. He was in an older town, older area, where people didn't do a lot of metal detecting. He was pretty much in like an assisted living kind of facility where they still got to go out for elderly retired people that didn't have anybody to at home that wanted to have the responsibility of taking care of them, and they still wanted to be independent. So he could go out, do some metal detecting in surrounding little parks and areas, and then go back home. And he used a bounty hunter and did pretty well with it. I started out with an Ace 150. But when I first started metal detecting, I was only metal detecting beaches. Road Warrior, what's up, bud? You've got to get to Ohio and Indiana and hunt with you guys. I want to find some of that crazy farm field stuff that y'all find. Yeah. Just completely off track. But, or you guys come out here. Come back to Chicago. Dig with us. Don't just message Al, because Al don't tell us anything. Let everybody know. We'll go out and show them how they actually find stuff. But when I first got in the hobby, I started off with an Ace 150. But I was just doing beaches. I didn't have to really work at the time, had money saved up, got interested in the hobby, met some local people such as like Chicago Ron and stuff like that were pounding the beaches and finding tons of gold. And was like, oh, hey, I can buy a cheapo little hand-me-down detector, and I bought my first Ace 150 from Chicago Ron and started hitting the beaches for literally a year straight, pretty much. Paid for my machine and everything I ever spent for maybe my first 2 or 3 years. That was upgrading machines. I went from an Ace 250 or an Ace 150 to an Ace 250. Ended up frying my Ace 250. Or no, I fried my Ace 150 and ended up getting an Ace 250 sent to me from a metaldetector.com. That I used to post a lot on their online forum, and they saw that I dropped and fried my Ace 150 on the beach, and they sent me an Ace 250. Did pretty well with that. A buddy of mine had an Ace 350 that I got my hands on. That's when I started doing curb strips and looking for older stuff and was finding silver coins. And from there I went on, and I went from an Ace 350 so I got in the hobby, Ace 150, Ace 250, Ace 350, probably like my first year. And then after my first year, I knew I was hooked. So at that point, my buddy had went from being a land hunter to a water hunter, had an E-Track sitting around, so I ended up making a deal to pay him over time and use the E-Track. So I jumped from an Ace 350 to a Minelab E-Track. And it was a learning curve. I did pretty well just because he used the E-Track pretty much since it had come out. So for a few years, and he knew the ins and outs of it and already had it set up. So I got lucky and did pretty well with that. But yeah, figure out what's your budget. What kind of hunting do you want to do? You don't need to go out and for your first machine go buy a XP Deus or a CTX 3030. You know, if anything, I would say right now in the market, probably the best two machines that I would tell people to go get would either be, I've recommended a lot of people get a Simplex. It's a machine that you're spending 300 bucks for. Most places, it's going to charge you 300 bucks. That's a machine that's waterproof, wireless headphones, completely rechargeable batteries, so you're not spending a bunch of money on batteries. I know when I first got in the hobby with the A series, I used to spend a crap load of money on AA batteries. Thing ran on 4 AA batteries, and you were lucky if the 4 batteries lasted you a week with as much digging as I was doing every day. So you can get way more modern machines now that have way more higher end machine settings that machines when I first started 8 years ago didn't even exist really. You know, you didn't even have, you had internal rechargeable battery packs that you had to buy for the E-Track and say CTX, and then the Deus after that was the first one I remember having completely internal rechargeable batteries. Um, but yeah, don't go through all these groups and post on there, hey, I'm new to the hobby, what kind of machine should I get? And then you're going to have 1,000 people tell you, oh, get a Deus, oh, get a CTX. You don't need to spend 2 grand on a machine to have something good that'll last you and do pretty well in the hobby. Um, Another thing to also consider when you're getting in the hobby is not just your budget for your machine. You're going to need more than the machine. Yeah, I'm guessing you said we can trade lower machines to good ones. I've really done that. Like I said, I've probably used between 12 to 14 machines over the 8 years that I've been metal detecting, and I think out of all those machines, I've actually only purchased, let's see, 2 or 3. My E-Track I purchased. I think one of my Deuses I purchased. I've had 2 Deuses. I've had 2 E-Tracks. I've had a CTX. Um, I won the CTX at the Illinois Iowa Club for 60 bucks. So I got lucky because I never would have afforded or would even imagined of spending the money to have to buy a CTX. So that's the only way that I ever had a CTX. Um, but yeah, another thing to factor into your budget is more than just your machine. You're going to need a pinpointer. You're going to need a shovel and a proper shovel. There are a lot of places and a lot of different people now that are making homemade digging shovels. Normally, if you ask someone or you see someone who's posting stuff online, you can ask them, hey, what kind of shovel do you use? Or hey, where can I get that shovel? There's a few good places. You can go to different metal detecting companies that second party sell machines, and they have shovels on there. Um, I used to use like one of the small little shovels that you would buy at like Harbor Freight. Those things would break so much that I would have to buy a new one maybe every 3-4 months. So it got to the point where I didn't want to anymore. Then I bought a longer handle, one of the long nosed skinny shovel deals from like Home Depot or Lowe's or something. That ended up causing an issue when I was out metal detecting curb strips in Chicago, and was pretty much the only reason why an officer told me that he was kind of understanding why the people were upset, thinking that I was digging up and causing mayhem, even though he could see that he couldn't even tell where my holes were. But he was like, just the perception of the big shovel, the guy walking around with it, digging up stuff. People are already like, hey, what are you doing? So go with something small. I've got the Samson T shovel that's going to cost you 50 or 60 bucks. Make sure you factor it in to your budget. Pinpointers are as bad as machines. You're going to ask people, hey, what pinpointer should I get? Hey, what's the best pinpointer? And you're going to have people that are going to say, oh, the Deus one, the MindLab one, the Garrett Carrot, the White's TRX. What's up, Chris? Thanks. Um, most pinpointers are good. I've used everything from the little $20 nail stud finder that you buy, the boxy one with the little stick pointing off of it that maybe lasts me a week when I didn't have a pinpointer at the time. Like I said, they'll pretty much all work. Do you want one that's waterproof? If you get an XP Deus at some point, do you want the XP pinpointer so it can sync to the machine, or do you want the Garrett Carrot because it syncs to the Garrett AT Max? Those are all choices you're just gonna have to make based on what machine you want, and if you upgrade in the hobby. Um, my favorite pinpointer was the White's TRX. I had one forever until I lost it because I left my digging pouch outside of the truck one day when I left a spot, and by the time I drove the 30 minutes back home and realized I had left it there in the parking lot and drove back, it was gone. So my favorite was the White's TRX. Not pretty expensive compared to the other ones. I use a Mind Lab, the 35 or whatever it is now, the higher end one, the one that's completely waterproof and everything. That one's no longer completely waterproof. The battery cap at the top where it screws in, the inside like hard plastic sheathing part completely just cracked at the top. Luckily it flooded at some point and got water in it because I was using it in the water because I'm like, hey, it's a waterproof pinpointer. I can use it in the water while I'm doing, like, I think I was in a river, and got out and it wouldn't work. Luckily I dried it out and it decided to turn itself back on, and since then I have not put it in water because I know if I do it'll probably kill it. But it's a good pinpointer other than that. They all have their faults. They're all good. You get it close to metal, it's going to go off. The Mind Lab one has like the different buzzing noises between non-ferrous and ferrous, and I've never paid it no attention and really don't really tell the difference between it and the noise it's making. Another thing, before we get off machines, the number one thing that I'm going to tell people, and if Harold's still in here, that man uses a Garrett AT Pro with an L Tornado coil. His whole setup probably now would cost you $400 or $500 to purchase. He kicks our butts. You're talking about guys that are using Equinoxes that have CTX with huge ass coils. You're talking about guys that had freaking Deuses and everything else that we've all used at the same time that Harold's had the Garrett AT Pro, and he's kicked our butt with it. Learn your machine. Whatever machine you get. Whenever I got a machine, which I've already said multiple times that I've gone through a bunch of machines, my whole thing was before I even got the machines at home in my hands, could put batteries in them or charge them and go outside and use them, I would sit and watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos on people using the machines. People showing different settings, different programs, depth reviews, coin garden tests, you name it, I would watch it. I would imagine probably on every machine I've ever used, I've probably at least sat on YouTube watching 100 hours on every one, trying to figure out every little thing that I could on them. If you're going to get a machine, learn it. If you're not going to learn it, you're not going to do well in the hobby. If you expect to go out just because, say, you spend $300 on a Simplex or you spend $2,000 on a CTX, and you think you're going to go out and you spent all this money on a machine and you're just going to be able to turn it on, swing around, and find a bunch of cool stuff that you see people on YouTube, yeah, Blue is killing everyone with the 800. That's why I use one. But if you think you're going to kill it just because you bought an expensive machine and you've seen other people make crazy finds with it and stuff like that, it's not realistic and probably not going to happen. If you don't learn your machine, you're not going to do that well with it. I don't care if it's a $300 Simplex or a $2,000 CTX. Learn your machine, learn how to use it, and you will find stuff. Maybe with a beginner machine, well, I wouldn't even say that. With the beginner machines now, if you get something modern, something newer in the last like 2 years, you're going to have the chance to find pretty good stuff. You're not going to be stuck like I was when I had an Ace 150 that maybe detected solidly for maybe at max 5 inches on the beach to the ground. You know, you got simplexes that you can get easily 7, 8, maybe 9 inches, depending on ground conditions and stuff like that. So you have a chance to find good stuff. Learn the machine, figure out as much as you can on it, and you'll do good. I don't think anybody else had any questions on machines. I do use an Equinox 800. I got one of the first ones that our sponsored dealer had. Got in when they first were released and got rid of it, used some other stuff, and now I'm back to one. Yeah, because it's good. As long as you learn that machine and figure out how to use it correctly, it's pretty well. Now I got a 15-inch coil on that thing, and it's pretty fun. Now, once you figured out what equipment you want to use, how to figure out the dais. I've had 2 daises. They're great machines. They have so many different settings and controls and different things you can tweak and change in it. I literally went to CT Todd's website, which is a good website to go to if you want to learn about dais, the 800s, the Equinox, the CTX. I think he still has CTX stuff in there, but the last podcast I listened to, he says he doesn't have a CTX anymore. He was really good with one. He has settings and everything on there for those machines. I took his Relic program for the dais and ended up having to go out for 2 or 3 weeks tweaking different settings until I got it to work here. That is another thing. If you're going to get a machine that you can change settings on, and you're going to watch YouTube videos to find settings, realize that if website is cttodd.com, I think it is. If you go on Google and just put in CT Todd, metal detecting, his website's going to come up. Everything's on there free to use. He's got dais settings, Equinox settings, CTX settings. He works really closely with Andy Savage that makes all the books for those machines. His settings are in those books as well. Most metal detecting places sell those books as well that have different settings. If you're going to use someone's settings, be prepared to tweak them. That is something that I've learned and always told people. That is why I'd watch different videos on different settings and try different things, because settings that somebody like CT Todd, who's like up in New England area, uses, and he's just in the woods, not dealing with a lot of trash, mostly iron and stuff like that, those settings are going to have to be changed to work somewhere, say, in Chicago in a park that's been populated since the 1800s. You know, you're going to have trash from the 1800s all the way to now, and you're going to have to get through that stuff and tweak the machine to figure out what settings you need for the stuff you're trying to look for and how to run it. It literally took me 2 or 3 weeks to come up with the settings that I had on the dais and never bothered to save them. Yeah, that was a dumb decision. But just learn your machine, whatever you get. From a Nocta Simplex to a CTX 3030. There's guys that I know that run CTXs, that ran E-Tracks, that ran daises, that could never figure them out because they always just thought you could turn it on and go, or I could watch this YouTube video of these guys' settings even if I'm in the US and they're in the UK, put these settings in my machine and it's going to do great just like I'm seeing them do. So there's certain things on YouTube to take with a little bit of grain of salt and some common knowledge, common sense, I would say, and go from there. Mouth's getting dry. Alright, next thing after machines. A lot of people don't talk about this stuff. It's kind of overlooked. It's kind of, when I got into the hobby, even though I joined my local metal detecting club, it was pretty much things that you were expected to know yourself, or maybe they would give you like a handout sheet that had stuff on there about how to pinpoint with your machine, swing speed, digging a proper plug. You get a correct shovel. It just doesn't make any difference if you're out there digging sewer cap plugs and leaving dirt and crap and your trash on top of the ground that you dig out of a hole that you dig trash out of. That's a quick thing to get everybody screwed, which has happened to us a few times. So I wanted to go over a few of those things just for anybody getting into metal detecting. Another thing was settings and learning settings in your machine. So learn how to pinpoint. I hear so many people, definitely, since a lot of times I recommend people, a lot of times is, hey, you're in the hobby, you got a machine. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I got a Garrett AT Pro, I want to upgrade. Do you think I should get a Simplex, a Deus? What should I get? And I'm like, man, you have a good machine. It's an AT Pro. They're still good. I would even say, and some people that have used both, they're better than the AT Max. So unless you want all the fancy crap that the AT Max offers, which is kind of crappy, really. Was disappointed by that one. I had the trade and everything set up for whenever Garrett. I knew Garrett was releasing a newer machine before they released AT Max, and I was hoping it was going to be something brilliant, and it turned out to be an AT Pro with a few extra different things on it. So got disappointed on that one. Kind of led me not to use Garrett. I love the AT Pro though. But yeah, you come to me with an AT Pro and say, hey, I want to upgrade. I want to find better stuff. I got an AT Pro. This is an older machine, or this machine isn't as fancy or crazy as these newer machines. Get an aftermarket coil. Like I said before, Harold uses the Nell Tornado coil, and I tell people, if Nell, or even if you have a MindLab machine, Coil Tech, they only make MindLab coils, but Nell makes coils for pretty much every machine that's almost on the market. If they have a coil for your machine, before you upgrade, as long as you're doing well with that machine, your best money is to buy an accessory coil. Why take an AT Pro that you're doing well with, that you know this machine, and get something like an Equinox? The only real difference is multi-frequency and internal battery. Really, when you think about it, it's really the only difference. Multi-frequency isn't that crazy on the Equinox. Truthfully, I use the Equinox in single frequency, unless I get into somewhere that has super crazy interference, and then I go multi. If a different frequency, single frequency won't work. That's why I loved the Deus. Just didn't like the whole wireless, not being able to go into water, losing connection kind of deal, and all the crap you had to go through to do that. So at the time, I wanted a machine that I can go on land and in the water. So separate the Deus coil too far from the remote, and they don't talk to each other anymore. Unless you run a crazy wire from your coil all the way up the shaft that's not out of the water, and you don't dunk your remote and lose $500. So, but let's see. Yeah, pinpointing. Learn how to pinpoint. Go outside, go to your driveway, put down a coin, sit there and practice how to pinpoint. I have a lot of guys that come to me and say, guys that I dig with, that are like, oh, it's so hard to pinpoint with a bigger coil on a machine. Just got to learn it. Just got to do different techniques. There's different techniques of pinpointing that you can try out and figure out which one works best for you. There's a lot of times I don't even pinpoint. I do the wiggle, turn, the wiggle, know an area about the size of my not so enormous head, and dig a nice plug on the plugs. Learn how to dig a plug. The one thing that is hurting the hobby right now more than anything, because of COVID, because of people getting all the stimulus money and getting into different hobbies and trying different things and stuck at home and wanting to get out and do something, and they're allowed to go outside, they turn around and they get a metal detector. Oh, I've watched Hoover Boys, or heck, you got some of these other channels now that are incorporating metal detecting into their channels just because it's popular. So, goes to show you. But learn how to dig a proper plug. Learn how to pick up trash. Most of the times, if I'm somewhere and there's trash on the ground, just in the park, of people that just drop down, pick it up, take it out, throw it in the dumpster. There's a garbage can somewhere. Throw it in the back of the truck. Throw it in your pouch. Throw it in the truck. Whatever. Don't dig horrible plugs. Learn how to dig a plug. It's not that hard to dig a 3-sided plug. Flip it out. get your dirt out, get your item, find your item that you detected, put the dirt back in, shut the plug back, pat it down, kind of brush off the grass, whatever loose dirt there is around it. A lot of times, most people that come behind me don't even know I dug there. Doesn't matter. We've had plenty of times that we've been in parks and places where there's $1 million homes all around. We're in public park metal detecting, and somebody just sees us. And one of the first times we were at a park and somebody called the police, and the police showed up, and there was like 3 police cars, and we're like, oh, what's going on? And they're like, some lady called hysterical on the phone and said there was somebody walking through the park with like a gun. She saw us walking through the park, swinging our metal detectors with the shovel just over our shoulders, and thought we had a gun. So you never know what instance is going to happen. So always be prepared for crazy stuff. We're going to get into that a little bit too later. But there's always going to be people out there that want to see you doing something, don't know what you're doing. Why is this person doing this? What are they doing? What is all that stuff they have? What is that thing they're swinging around? Why do they have this shovel? Why are they digging a hole in the ground? If you dig properly, get your trash out. Don't leave trash all over the place. Take care of it. I will stop and cover that question. Chris just asked when they're going to be letting us metal detect in forest preserves in Cook County. Never. Sadly, it sucks. When I first got in the hobby, that is when they stopped metal detecting in the forest preserve. I can get into a whole story of that. That's what happens when somebody in the hobby is not only greedy, but is also screwing it for everyone else. That is a good example of why you should dig proper plugs. Yeah, Gerber, agree with you. I don't think that'll ever happen again. I know people who know places where you could still go in there. It wasn't because of holes. Well, it was because of holes because of a reason. So I'll kind of tell of what I know, because that's when I got into the hobby. Yeah, you could hunt them in the 70s. You could hunt them all the way until about 8 or 9 years ago when I got into the hobby. There ended up being a person who decided, out of all the forest preserves and all the different places that you can go to in them and find where there was old original home sites or old groves that are no longer used, where people up until that point were still pulling out handfuls of silver every time they went in there. He wanted to go hunt a forest preserve that was connected to a golf course that the forest preserve ran. And he decided he needed to metal detect the golf course. So that person got caught. That person still runs around on Facebook and stuff like that. We've had to kick him out of our group because he was trying to trick people into going into forest preserves to find silver rounds that he was putting out there. I guess he wanted to see other people get in trouble. He's a pretty shady guy. I've pretty much blocked him on every social media thing I have, so don't deal with him anymore after all those incidences. But yeah, he decided he needed to metal detect a golf course, dug crappy holes on top of that to where golf carts were driving into them, people that were showing up there to mow the golf courses, and a plug was barely back into the ground, so it's all lumped up above the ground surface, and when a lawnmower goes over it, well, guess what happens to that plug? It goes I've seen it happen. They get completely annihilated if they're not packed down right. If you're putting a plug back in, when you put a plug back in, that plug should be flat with the rest of the ground, and you brush the grass around it. Simple, takes a couple seconds, and you'll hardly be able to tell where it is. If that plug, when you try to push it back in the ground, isn't wanting to go all the way in, simple thing to do, open the plug, you reach your hand in the hole, pull out a handful of dirt, take the dirt out. You can throw it across the field, throw it across the park. Don't matter, it's going to be gone. I just missed the chat, so I don't know what y'all said. Sorry. But yeah, you want that plug to be flat. There's plenty of times that, say you dig down the hole this deep, and you can't get the plug back flat. Take some of the dirt out of the hole, put the plug back so it's flat, brush the dirt around into the grass, and nobody's ever going to tell. The main thing is you want that plug back flat. You don't want to have somebody walk up, a police officer, a park employee, and they're coming over there to confront you about somebody complaining about you digging, And as I walk over to you, they're just seeing lump, 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 where you haven't been putting holes flat back. You know, if they can tell where you've been metal detecting and people are already complaining, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get the boot. So properly digging a plug, properly learning how to pinpoint a target so you can dig a plug. You don't want to have to not really have your pinpointing down or that well on it, and you think, oh look, the item that I've pinpointed, the coin that I've pinpointed is in a spot this big. You dig a plug this big, and the next thing you know, you have to dig 3 separate little plug deals off the side of it because you didn't pinpoint it right. Another thing I always tell people, especially because I use bigger coils don't get this accurate. You know, if I'm using a coil this big, like a 5-6 inch coil, then yeah, I'm going to be able to pinpoint the item down to this. But that's more than likely not going to happen. Dig a decent sized plug, about the size of your foot, and you'd be good. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be in your plug, depending on how deep you dig your plug down, or it's going to be in the hole. There isn't a lot of times, maybe every time I go out metal detecting, there may be 1 or 2 times that I may have dig the plug, go down, pinpoint, and it's off to the side, but it's in the hole, off to the side. So that's pretty easy. Let's see. Another thing, set your detector length. When you're metal detecting, I always tell people this is a 2-part. It's because it's going to go into 2 things that are completely related and that mess a lot of people up. There's been plenty of times newer guys have gone out metal detecting with us. Now it kind of becomes a joke. So if we see you doing it, you turn around and we're all in a group and we're kind of giggling and laughing, it's probably because you're swinging your coil. This is the ground and your coil is way up here. Not only is it way up here, but you're either freaking helicopter blading it, like you're in freaking a race. You know, you're swinging like this, walking super fast. You ain't gonna find much of anything. Slow down. Make sure your detector shaft and your coil is set out far enough to where you can take small steps. I normally go 1 step, swing, another step, swing, another step, swing. It's also why I like using a bigger coil, cover more ground. I don't, particularly for me, probably another podcast I'll do is going over aftermarket coils and the difference between using bigger coils and smaller coils. Bigger coils may get you an inch or 2 more in depth over your stock coil, but 9 times out of 10, when I'm using them, I get at them because I'm afraid that I'm not covering all the ground that I should be covering as I'm metal detecting along. So having your metal detecting shaft extended far enough to where your coil is far enough in front of you to where you're not walking and kicking it, stepping on it. You know, you want your coil, when you're swinging, this is the ground, every coil comes with a coil cover. There is no reason why you shouldn't be having that coil on the ground. That is why they have coil covers. So you can rub that thing all you want. Oh, yep. Nope. Oh, that's another good one I just saw. Sorry guys, I'm back. I should have been connected to the Wi-Fi to be on my phone through my service, and it. That is something I'll also get to. Not just what kind of metal detecting you want to do, but where are you going to go metal detecting? You know, you're new, you're in the hobby. Where are you going to go? But before you figure that out, make sure you're using your machine right. Like I said, coils come with coil covers. They're made to be used and abused. Don't be swinging 50 miles. I've seen so many different posts of people like, oh, this machine sucks because I keep breaking the ears off of coils. Well, hey, that's because you may have your machine, your coil on the ground, but you're swinging 50 miles an hour. And the first rock you hit, the first little root that's popped up out of the ground that you smack that thing across, what do you happen? It's gonna break. It's plastic. It's meant to break. But if you use it correctly, it's not gonna break. Take your machine if you want to. I'm not telling you to do this. Take your machine, go outside. Or, okay, just so somebody doesn't get the idea to go do this. If I was to take my machine, my MindLab Equinox, outside to a tree, take my machine and go against the tree, what do you think is going to happen with the coil? It's going to break. What do you think is going to happen to the shaft? It's going to break. The arm cuff. These are parts that, yes, they're meant to have a strength tolerance to where they break. At the same point, they're not meant to be used in an incorrect way and expected not to break. An arm cuff, if you're putting your machine down or something and you're leaning on it, you know, if you're using a machine to prop yourself up when you're getting off the ground instead of using your stainless steel metal shovel to pick yourself up if you need help getting off the ground, not your machine. It's plastic and metal, carbon fiber, whatever the shaft and everything else is made out of. But it's not meant to take the weight in certain angles, well, pretty much probably in any angle of, say, somebody who's, hell, I'm 185 pounds. I'm pretty sure if I put all my weight onto my Equinox, even with carbon fiber shaft that's on it, it's going to break. So use your machine correctly. Swing speed, you know, nice, steady. It's not a race. If the one thing that I always tell people is low and slow. Low and slow is the way to go. You're not going to miss anything. If you miss it, that's just because it's too deep and your machine can't get to it. Probably nobody else's can either. Or it's, maybe you need to hit it from a different direction. Instead of going through the field this way, you need to go through the field this way. Different stuff that shows up different ways. But if you're the person that thinks, oh hey, if I beat my buddy from this side of the field to the other side of the field, get there before he does, if there's anything good, I'm going to find it. No, you're not. Digging Chicago Al. I'm going to guess that's Al. Turn your wrist left and right at the ends of single. Keep your coil on the ground. Turning your wrist left and right. I don't advise that one. I don't know. That's just me personally. When I'm normally swinging my metal detector, I keep my arm pretty much stiff from the shoulder to the elbow and swing like this. Just from the elbow. You don't need to be doing all this swinging with your arm and going, you know, like a pendulum. A lot of people I see, though, that swing with their wrist at the end up doing the deal where this is the ground, this is your coil, this is another thing that we will laugh at you about if we see you doing it, but we will tell you, hey buddy, that's not going to help you find anything. If you're doing this number, where you're swinging and your coil's going like this, arcing up in the air at the ends, you don't want that. When you're doing this with your coil, the only area that your metal detector is getting the best reading on is the spot right in front of you. All of this to the side, nothing. Unless it's something on the surface. But it's not getting any depth. You're lifting the coil off the ground. Come back, walk in a straight line, come back the other way. A lot of times what I do is I run lines. I grid. Anywhere I go, I grid. I pick my spot where I'm going to start. I look across however far I'm going to go, and I make a judgment and say, okay, there's that tree. I know I need to stay in line with that tree. When I get to that tree, or however close I'm going to get to that tree, I'm going to turn, and I'm going to come back and cover half of the area I just swung over. So when I come back, I literally turn, and it's literally maybe 1 or 2 steps to the side. Put some weight on the coil. That would be a good one. Keep that coil on the ground. Put some weight on it. Keep it down there. Oh my gosh, we're getting to 50 minutes. I was only going to do an hour, but I'm like only halfway through this. So I guess I'll go until we get done. Or till people get too bored to watch. A lot of places do an hour. I was going to do an hour, but what the heck. This is pretty fun. Only got 7 people, 6. But it doesn't really bother me none. I'd rather do this to help somebody, even if it's one person, than to grow it all crazy. I want to give y'all something on the channel since there hasn't been anything in months. So the question somebody else asked a few minutes ago, we're going to go over that. I didn't want to bust into that all in the middle of the other stuff. So once you have your machine, once you have your gear, once you know how to use it, now you got to figure out, where am I going to go metal detecting? Research before you go out. That is good. Right there, that guy said. That's Dan. Dan, I hope your back's feeling better, bud. Got to get you out digging again. Quit fucking your back up. Research before you go out. That doesn't mean just researching for old locations. That means once you get in the hobby, you got your machine, you got your gear. I hope it gets better, bud. I'm ready for you to get out, find some stuff. We miss you. But now you need to find out, where can I go dig? You pretty much every different town, every different city, every different county, be it public park, forest preserve, beaches, they all have different rules. My advice to you is to research and figure out where you are allowed to metal detect and where you are not. If you don't know, if you're not allowed to be at that spot metal detecting, you need to call someone and find out. A lot of times you can just go on the website, say it's a park district. A lot of times you can go on a park district website and look in their rules and regulations and figure out if you're allowed to be there to metal detect or not. Around here, there's some park districts that don't allow any metal detecting whatsoever. There's some that don't have any care in the world about it. There's some that it's in their rule book that you're allowed to. There's some that it's in the rule book where they don't have anything, but if you're there metal detecting, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to show up and give you the boot. It's up to them. But first thing you should do before you go out, not knowing this is not an excuse to go wherever you want to go and metal detect. If that is what you think, you're going to cause problems for yourself and problems for everybody else in the hobby. I hate the fact that people get in the hobby, get a metal detector, and think that allows them to go and metal detect wherever they want. That's not the case. You need to figure out what your local laws and regulations are, such as here in Chicago area. In Chicago, all public land, parks, beaches, curb strips, all that stuff, completely open to metal detecting. Unless you're causing a problem with people there, unless you're digging horrible holes, causing issues with other people in the park. I need to plug my phone in. Like I said, guys, I'm new to this live streaming stuff, so this will get better as we go along, and I do plan on continuing to do this. So maybe next time I'll just do it on my phone anyways. This has become a lot easier than trying to do everything on my computer. But yeah, Chicago area, public parks, public beaches, curb strips, the grass between the sidewalk and the curb, public property. Owned by the city, by city ordinance, the homeowners have to maintain it. Such as shovel the sidewalk with snow right now. We got all this snow. That's your obligation for having the sidewalk. You have to shovel the sidewalk in front of your house. The curb strip in front of your house, they can come around and ticket you, fine you for not mowing the grass and properly taking care of it if they want to. It's not the homeowner's property, but by city ordinance, they have to maintain it. Because if the city had to come around and shovel all the snow on the sidewalks, mow all the grasses in the curb strips, they'd probably charge us even more in taxes. Not to get too political, but they would find a way to charge us more in taxes. I'd say that has to get paid for somehow. If y'all don't want to do it, well, you're going to have to pay us to. But yeah, figure out where you can go metal detecting. Here in Cook County, we can't metal detect forest preserves. Before, there was rules on the book that technically made it where you couldn't metal detect forest preserves, but they didn't really care. Till people started digging and destroying and messing stuff up, then it got enforced. Now you get fined and ticketed if you're caught metal detecting most of the times. They don't just decide that they're having a nice day and want to just tell you, oh, hey, you can leave. Go to your park district's website. Every park district that I've found has a website. Look up whatever city, whatever town, park district. They're going to have a phone number on there. They're going to have, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have rules and regulations. If they don't have rules and regulations, and you can't look up and see if they allow or don't allow metal detecting, call them. Ask to talk to a supervisor. Ask to talk to a supervisor. DuPage and Will, yeah, I know. DuPage and Will County, pretty much all the forest preserves around here is a no-go on metal detecting. You get caught just with a metal detector in your car, and they see it, they are allowed to ticket you. So, word to the wise of anybody in the Chicago area, do not go metal detecting in a forest preserve. Not smart. But they'll have a website. If you didn't know you couldn't metal detect in a forest preserve, and there's something like a forest preserve where you live, call them. Go to the forest preserve doing something else, or if you have your gear in the truck and you just want to drive through there and you know where the officer's building is or where one of the administration buildings is, go in there and talk to them. They're going to tell you either, yeah, you can metal detect, or no, you can't. Going in there with just getting caught and saying, oh, well, I didn't know, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to help you. You're still going to be held accountable for whatever you were doing that you weren't supposed to be doing. It's the way the world works. Sadly. Well, not sadly. It's the way it should be. Like I said, there's no excuse with all the stuff that's on the internet nowadays and being able to call somebody and having a smartphone in your hand. Yeah, tot lots are good. Go to a park. I used to have a park that was maybe a block square where I lived in the city, that the park never found really much of anything. The playground and the volleyball pit. 2 great spots to go to in a park if you're allowed to metal detect in a park. Even if you're really not allowed to metal detect in a park. So when I first moved there and first started metal detecting the playground, I ended up having people complain to the park employees who ran that park. That guy ended up seeing me one day and coming out there. And at first, he was going to kick me out, tell me to leave. You people are coming over here with their kids and they're complaining. I would make sure that I either went early in the morning or late in the evening. Early in the morning, people with kids, they're in school or they're at home. Later in the afternoon, they let the kids out. They take the kids to the park, play on the playground, all that stuff. Early in the morning, not really kids and people playing in the park. Later in the evening, people are taking their kids home. An hour before sunset. 30, 40 minutes before sunset. I know most parks around here close at sunset, and that's the only reason why I make that kind of statement, because I'm just so used to it. Most of the parks around here close when the sun goes down, so unless they have a time. But yeah, he was going to come give me the boot out of the freaking tot lot, just mulch playground area, and I turned around and showed him all of the carpenter nails and razor blades and screws from years ago when they put the playground equipment in that I was digging up and finding maybe an inch or 2 under the surface. I ended up finding razor blades that were maybe not even an inch underneath the mulch, full wide open pocket knives that were right underneath the mulch. If a kid goes running through there, somebody has their kid at the park in the playground, kid don't have any shoes on, it's going to be a bad day. I would know that now. I've got kids, so I wouldn't want my kid running through the playground and they're getting a knife stuck in their foot. So yeah, like I said, not knowing the rules doesn't make it okay for you to go anywhere you want. You're going to easily find out where you can and can't go metal detecting. If you live in a smaller town, it's going to be easier. Go to wherever the parks district is, or the park works, or city works, or town hall, and talk to somebody. Go find your sheriff, talk to him, call him. They're going to be able to tell you, oh, hey, yeah, you can do that, or you can't. If you want to go hunting people's fields, don't just go on people's fields, private property, without getting permission. Don't go to people's houses, no matter how old you think they are, and dig in their yard. They're not going to be happy, and you could end up being liable for damages and trespassing. So, words of the wise, unless you want to have problems, more problems for yourself, make us all look bad, then make the hobby get more and more closed down where we can't dig in parks, where we can't dig in these places because of stupid stuff people do, then figure out where you can and can't metal detect. Your public appearance. I wanted to go over this because this is something that a lot of people, I'm not talking about not being dirty, not having a scraggly beard, not looking all crazy. What I'm talking about is if you're metal detecting in a park and somebody comes up to you, and me and every other of the guys that dig with me, we've all had it happen. Somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to be obnoxious and crazy and mean and upset and angry, not know what you're doing. Hey, what are you doing here? You're not allowed to be here. Stop digging that hole. You're destroying the ground. What are you doing? You're going to have one of those. It's going to suck. But your reaction to it and the way you handle it is coming from the person that I normally try to handle it in a peaceful and calm way, unless somebody wants to be extremely rude and disrespectful. At that point, I'm going to be extremely rude and disrespectful right back to you. It could be anybody from just a normal person walking through the park. Besides, oh, hey, what is this person doing? Why do they have a shovel? Why are they digging holes in the ground? What is going on? Coming over, even if they just come over to talk to you, be able to stop, give them a couple minutes, talk to them, explain what's going on, tell them what you're doing, tell them what you're finding, show them some of the stuff you're finding. Even if you're finding trash, be like, hey, dug all this trash out of the ground. A lot of people, once they figure out what you're doing, what's going on, ain't going to really care. The ones that are going to be the worst obnoxious ones are going to be the people that are just going to straight up not even come talk to you and just going to call the police. So be prepared to be confronted by the police most of the times. If you're in a town, digging in a park, not a lot of times digging on a beach. Your one thing digging on the beach is don't get too excited about the stuff you're finding. Seen that turn out the wrong way. I got a gold ring, I got a gold ring. Next thing you know, here comes this chick. Hey, I lost that ring that you said you found. That's mine. Now you've got a whole issue on your hand. On the beach, keep it to yourself. If you're making a video, do it where people can't see. Don't be super excited. You can be super excited, but don't be jumping around talking about, I just found a gold ring. You're going to have problems real quick. Dealing with the police, your appearance, your attitude, be respectful, be cordial to people, talk to them respectfully. Oh, where you lost this gold or silver. Yeah. Where did you lose that gold ring? I want to go find that one because I found this one and it's not yours. Did you really lose a gold ring? I'll go find that one too, but I'm not going to tell you. You just tried to take this one. Yeah, no. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get confronted by the police at some point. If you're a smart person, you know how to deal with yourself with the police. Be respectful. Explain to them what you're doing. If you know the rules and you know you're allowed to be there, not supposed. If you know that you're allowed to be there metal detecting, things are going to go a lot smoother. If you've just gone somewhere and metal detected and don't know, or you're not supposed to be there, yep, you're going to have a bad day. That's on you, though. So, I think that's all about that. Unless anybody's got any questions about places to go. If you want to research places to go. Now, this is if you've gotten down the rabbit hole of metal detecting. And you want to find really good spots, really old stuff. I'm going to get more in-depth in this in another deal, so I'm not going to go super in-depth of it here. Historical aerials. Perfect. One of the greatest things you can use. Simple websites. Go in, check historical aerials. You know the address to a spot. You know the name of a park. You can look it up. You can go back as far as they can in aerials and topos and figure out where stuff was, what was there. was this house originally here that long ago? Was that house built there in the 50s? Was it their original house there in, say, 1820? A lot of times you'll be able to figure that stuff out, and it's going to help you make better finds. I don't know what else. That's pretty much all I use, really. A good thing that I tell people, if you're in the Chicago area, yep, find out where you can go. I don't know where you're at, but figure out if you can hunt those parks. If you find an old property, an old house, an old farm that hey, this person's farm I can find on historical aerials, and it goes all the way back to 1923. If it's been there that long, it was probably there longer than that. But that's as far as you can go back in topos or aerials. Topos, you'd probably go back farther than that. Champaign. If they're public areas, talk to your park district. Figure out if you can go there and dig. If they're places that are privately owned, try to go and get permission. We've done a few permissions, had a few places come to us and want them to find stuff. We helped a school find a time capsule from like the 70s. It was pretty cool. I covered digging tools. And yeah, don't buy the cheap Harbor Freight shovels. Don't do it. It's a waste of money. You're going to break them. They're going to break a lot. I like construction sites where they're taken outside. Yes, look for sidewalks being dug up. Boy, oh boy, there's so many times I wish I carried a metal detector around with me all the time in the truck. Just for the simple fact of driving around and I'll see a whole freaking 3 blocks of streets in a town. Not streets, but sidewalks along the street in a town that I know is old, and they've dug out all the sidewalks. And by the time I finally get a chance to go around there or go back there, they filled them back in. And I missed out on stuff. Yeah, if they've dug up sidewalks, if they've dug up old roads, heck, if you know there's a neighborhood or something and you see a house getting construction on and they're tearing up the yard and all that kind of stuff, a lot of times, go over there and ask the people who are working there. Hey, once y'all guys are done, or hey, when you guys are on your lunch break, do you mind if I come and metal detect the yard? Yeah, I'm not in your way, you're not out here, I'm not going to do anything. Just looking for stuff that's in the ground. A lot of times they'll give you permission. I did really well when I started finding older stuff and digging in the dirt after getting off the beaches. Following around in the city was digging up curb strips, so the grass strips in between the curb and the sidewalk, replacing gas and water lines. They were digging up dirt that was 10, 12, 15 feet down, pulling it up, putting it on the street, putting it next to the hole on the curb strip. I found all different kinds of stuff. That's where I literally, on the top of a dirt pile that had to have been at least 12 feet, if not like 15 feet deep, right on top of the dirt pile. So what was at the bottom of the hole was a 1799 copper French coin. 1799. I've got 1,700 coins that I found in the city of Chicago. I never would have found it if I wouldn't have started following those guys around as they were digging those piles up and just leaving the dirt piles sitting there after they were done working. They would literally dig up a block and they would be 3, 4 blocks ahead digging up the blocks before the other guys would get there to actually do the work in it. I found plenty of stuff doing that. Silvers, old coins, old relics, good stuff. So look for stuff like that. Once you get into metal detecting and you get into it pretty good, you start getting the mind, and then you'll be driving around and oh, there's a dirt pile. They're digging up stuff. Man, I gotta go there and see if I can dig it. Or, oh, hey, grade school and high schools, Google Maps. Google Maps are fine to find parks and find areas, but then you gotta research them. If you're in the Chicago area, city of Chicago, Chicago Park District, 2 or 3 years ago, they added things to the Chicago Park District website where you literally go in there, look up that park. When you look up that park, a page of information is going to come up telling you like what events they have there, what different facility stuff they have there, playgrounds and pools and indoor stuff and gyms, whatever they have there. But at the bottom of it, they're going to have an actual history section of that park. It's going to tell you when the park was founded, when it was made, when it was incorporated into the Chicago Park District, all that kind of stuff. So you can get a lot of research if you live in Chicago, just right there. Go to Chicago Park District website. Look up whatever park you're interested in going to. About a good 95% of them, except for maybe like the really small parks, don't have a lot of information. But there isn't a lot of really small parks in the city of Chicago. So figure out where you want to go. Make sure you're allowed to be there. And then enjoy yourself. Learn how to use your machine. I was going to go in the fines. Proper way to clean fines. Issues that some people have with people who sell fines. Me personally, I've sold a lot of my stuff, so I can't even talk crap. Older stuff that interests me, I keep. Other stuff, common silver coins, gold jewelry, I don't need that stuff sitting around collecting dust. It does me no good. I might as well sell it and have it go back into me purchasing new stuff or paying for stuff I've already bought and getting into the hobby. That's my personal opinion. Some people don't like it. Some people don't agree with it. But some people keep everything and hoard it all. That's all stuff that you've dug out of the ground that's valuable and historical, and we need to keep it. Other people that you go and they have a house that looks like hoarders. Or they end up just having buckets of crap in the garage that their wife's always yelling out about, clean out the garage, all that crap. Proper cleaning, I'm not going to go in depth into everything. Electrolysis and soaking stuff in, freaking, oh my god, gold gill buttons and lemon juice and freaking copper coins and freaking vegetable oil, all that kind of crap. Clean your stuff the way you want to. I'll probably do a whole nother one of these just on cleaning, going through electrolysis. I was hook, line, and sinker. Never sold anything, given some away. I've given a lot of stuff away as well. Like I said, I've kept all the stuff that's interesting to me that I like and that I want to keep. Other stuff, give it away. Jewelry, I've given away plenty of jewelry pieces. I've given away and traded, olive oil, I know, not vegetable oil, brain fart. I've given away plenty of stuff. I've traded stuff. Dan, that would take forever. Go to my personal page on Facebook, Tommy Decker. Go to the photos, scroll through it. Go to the Detecting Chicago Facebook group. Still called Detecting Chicago. I didn't change that group to 708 Adventures like the YouTube channel. That's gonna say mostly metal detecting for on that channel, or on that Facebook group. Go through there. Go to the search little tab once you're on the group on Facebook and type in Tommy Decker. Go to photos. It's going to show you everything I've ever posted up on there. That's all my finds. It would take me forever to go through. Like I said, I have 1799 French copper coin, semi-key date seated dime that I sold and bought back and sold and bought back between one of my digging buddies. Traded back and bought back and traded and sold and all that stuff. Other silver coins and gold jewelry, silver jewelry, that's all on there. It would take me forever to go through and try to find some of the best stuff. It's all there. Ever since I first started detecting, all my jewelry I found on the beach up until I started digging in the dirt and everything up until last year. The only thing I've found this year is, well, we did get out to do some digging at the beginning of the year, I think, before it really got cold. But I didn't really find anything good. 1877 Indian. That's a great one. I've found a few Indians, a couple Indians. I've found 1870s Indians and then couldn't tell what the dang last number was. I have an older spot in Chicago I go to that most of the coins I pull out of there are pretty crusty. All right, Martin, thanks for tuning in, bud. We'll be doing it again next week. 7 people. Anybody got any more questions? I'll go into a video of proper cleaning techniques. If you go to CT Todd's website also, because I recommended it earlier for settings for the Deus and the Equinox and the CTX, he also does have a section on the website for cleaning fines, how different people do it, different techniques and stuff like that. When I do an episode, I will probably go on there to see what he has and base whatever I talk about off that kind of stuff, because pretty much the only real stuff I've ever done is electrolysis, mostly for coins and other relics and iron items, olive oil for soaking copper items. Nope, none of us have done that. That would be pretty cool though. I would have to buy all the stuff to do it, all the stuff that I'm already into. It gets pretty cumbersome of having everything and money wise, so maybe one day. Tumbler, I've never done a tumbler. I've always wanted to get one, and normally, like I said, when I get home, I take my fines, take all the junk stuff, throw it in the trash, take all the clad that I found, throw that normally in a bucket that I clean sometime later. And then I take all my good finds and I normally just run them under the water in the sink and either use my fingers or use a soft bristled toothbrush. And that's pretty much all the finds you're going to see that I've mainly posted. If you go through looking on the Facebook group or my own personal page, that's how I clean them. Some stuff was so cruddy that I would use electrolysis. Some stuff, coppers and, well, not coppers. I think I've only soaked some of my coppers in olive oil. I have yet to get a U.S. copper, but I got a ton of other country coppers. So, I've soaked some of those in olive oil to get better details on them. Garage sales, tumblers, nice. I may get a tumbler eventually. I haven't tried it though. Would like to get a tumbler. Yeah, tumbler is good for clad. It's probably the only thing that I would use it for. I would like to get a tumbler, a bigger tumbler, to use sand and clean some of my old bottles. I have old bottles that I pulled out of sites along the Chicago River that have like crud in them and stained on the glass that I've never, using extreme cleaning products, never been able to get off. So maybe just tumbling them in like sand or fine media would be great. May take you up on that sometimes. Like I said, if I got a tumbler, it would be mostly just for tumbling clad. A lot of times I save all that stuff, put it in a bucket or put it in a jar that has a lid that closes, and once that jar is full or kind of, I throw some soap in there, some water in there, and sit there and give it a good freaking wally whacking, good shaking, and call it a day. Most of my clad I just go take and put in coin stars, so yeah, so I'll probably do a whole video and using freaking lemon juice on gold gilded buttons. Some of the buttons I have would never look as good as they do if I didn't use freaking lemon juice on them and make the freaking gold gilding on them pop like post-Civil War buttons. I don't need it for free, Chris. Like I said, if I got a tumbler, it would be a while before I would use one. So I really don't need one right now. Like I said, we got out a few times beginning of the year. Really didn't find anything super crazy. Got a silver coin over these cold months out of Coinstar. That's about it. So, but yeah, we're an hour and 20 minutes in, guys. I was only going to go for an hour. We're down to 4 people. We've got it to 7 at some points. Well, thanks. Callie, I think it is. Glad to hear the whole family enjoyed it. I tried to keep it clean because I didn't know if people were going to have their kids or something watch it or maybe show them to it, just because it's beginning metal detecting. I try to keep most of my videos as clean as possible. Every now and then maybe a curse word will slip. Thanks for tuning in though. Hope the whole family enjoyed. One day when my kids get older, I will try to see if they like metal detecting. Knowing them being my kids, at some point they're going to love digging in the dirt, so, and probably be interested in history. So hopefully, maybe they're interested in metal detecting. So I'll do another video on cleaning and go in depth on everything, and maybe even get like all the stuff that I would use to make my own homemade electrolysis setup when I used to do my electrolysis, and we'll put one together. I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't have an electrolysis setup right now. It's pretty simple to do at home. A phone charger, a bucket, some clamps and stuff like that. Alright, Al. Alright, Dan. I'm going to be signing off here, guys. Next week, next Wednesday, we'll do the same all over again. If I don't come up with a topic, I'll have a... Nice. Keep me updated on that, man. Simplex. Go Simplex. It'll be great. I recommended Simplexes to a few people this week. But yeah, if I don't come up with a topic that I want to cover or something, then I will post a poll in the community here on the YouTube channel, and y'all can vote on what you want me to cover there. If not, I'll come up with something. Maybe something simple, maybe something easy. Maybe talk about some of the stuff that people rumor and talk about. Don't know. Don't know if I want to give some people butt hurt. Don't get butt hurt. Don't talk crap. Go over some of the stuff. Pay dirt panning. That's all you, Al. I would have to come to your place, set this up, and we could sit there and talk about pay dirt panning, bro. The farthest I ever got in pay dirt panning was giving away a painting set with a bag of pay dirt. You're the pay dirt painting guy. I've offered to come over there and make a video with you on pay dirt painting for ages now. Seems like. We could do it. Alright, guys. Well, I'll talk to y'all guys later. I'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed. Go up, like, comment, subscribe. There's going to be metal detecting videos, fishing videos, adventure videos. That's the reason I changed it to 708 Adventures, is to have a bunch of cool, crazy stuff other than just metal detecting on here. So, we'll see you guys later. Take the snow off the ground. I can't take it. Yeah, I wish I could. I'm going to go buy a flamethrower and just walk around everywhere. I'd do it if they let me. I hate snow. Alright, guys. Thanks a lot. Talk to y'all later. Enjoy yourself. Everybody stay safe. Stay warm. And we will see you on the next episode. Oh, no. Alright, guys. Bye. See ya. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Same time, same place. Right here on the channel. Wednesdays. 7 p.m. That's where I'll be. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. See ya.